Hi everybody, I am J, and no, this is not the thing on Darth Vader's chest. This is the Revival Drive by Origin Effects. Well, it's big, it's pretty heavy, and it's quite intense, but it's also one of the most amp-like and versatile drives I think I've ever really used. This is the Revival Drive by Origin Effects, and not only is it harmonically rich and touch sensitive, it's designed to sound great through any, and I mean any amp you want to put this little box into. You got like a bright AC30, no problem. How about a boutique amp with a really tricky tone stack? Forget about it. Heck, you could plug this thing directly into your computer IR simulators or speaker simulators. It'll handle it and sound like a boss doing so. Most overdrives, they kind of work as a secondary preamp for your rig. This thing really captures the entire overdrive circuit response of an amplifier, from its rectifier type, phase inverter, negative feedback loop, reactive load response, mains power filtering. Wow, that's just a lot of confusing words in a row, isn't it? Rounding out with its 2 channels, you also get a foot-switchable mid-boost, a clean blend override, and you can also opt for the custom panel, which gives you even more EQ options. So with all of the accessories in this thing over here, you're pretty much looking at 18 knobs, 10 switches, 3 dips, and 4 stomp buttons. So it could be a little bit overwhelming. So what I want to do today is I want to alleviate this confusion and show you how to get some quick, awesome tones out of this. And I'm going to be using it through a 2011 custom shop Fender Tele with Virgil Arlo pickups and Stringjoy strings. And it's all going into a Fender Deluxe amplifier. So let's hook this thing up, let's turn some knobs, and let's push this thing to the limit. So essentially we have 2 channels that we're looking at with this pedal. We have a silicon rectifier side and the valve rectifier side. Very similar, they both have the exact same knob and switch layout. Let's start off with the silicon side. A little bit tighter, a little bit punchier. Beautiful, beautiful sounding amp tones. Let's start with the clean sound though. Here we go. Killer, let's turn it on. Pretty neutral setting. Beautiful. We have the volume and the output. The output is how loud you want this unit to be, and the volume is how gainy you want it to be. So down low, you can get kind of a nice, gritty, clean sound. And as you turn it up, you get angrier and angrier. You'll notice up top on that gain knob, it sounds a little bit more bright, a little bit more presence, and it gets a little bit darker as you go down. That's why there's bright caps and bright channels on our amps to counterbalance that effect. And this pedal has a bright cap right here too. So in the middle, we have a nice neutral sounding low gain sound. We move it to the US side if we want something a little bit more American. On the the other side, the British side, it becomes more martially. The lows knob just adds more lows. One cool thing to do is just put it really, really high for that silver tone amp. And we also have a blend knob. The blend knob, of course, blends in some of our clean tone. We could even increase the volume of our clean tone with this knob right over here. And it's very useful for having a great transition from your clean sound to your overdrive sound. Makes things nice and organic and beautiful. Moving down, we have our last group of switches here, the preamp switch. In the middle, just a full range overdrive, what we've been working with this whole time. On the left side, we have another British setting. What this does is it kind of sounds like we cut the bass, put up the mids, and put up the treble, very soloistic and lead sounding tone. Last but not least, we have the US preamp, another great soloistic idea. What you can do, turn up the gain on the pedal, turn the bright cap to the US side, put on that US preamp, and all of a sudden you have that kind of dumble tone that you've been looking for years. So now let's move over to the valve rectifier side. I love valve rectified amps. They're a little bit saggier, just makes my guitar sound just a little bit more organic and reedy. Now the two knobs we haven't touched yet are the More Presence knob and the Ghost knob. What the More Presence knob is a negative feedback knob, pretty much. So all the way down you have no negative feedback, which kind of sounds like an untamed amp, just, you know, kind of fuzzier and brighter and less compressed and just very, very touch sensitive. That AC30 tone that, you know, that. As we turn up the knob, we start adding negative feedback, which adds a little bit more tightness, a little bit more compression, takes some of that highs away, and makes it a little bit more clean. Right around here is kind of where you would see a Fender style amp being, you know, that. So you can keep raising that negative feedback loop up until noon, and then all of a sudden we're maxed out and this thing turns into a presence knob, like, you know, something you'd see on a Marshall amp or a high watt amp. Up to noon, all the way up is just adding more presence, more of that brightness, more of that beautifully controlled awesomeness. Oh, I love it. The last knob we're looking at is the ghost knob. I like to explain it like this. When we have the power going into our amp, they get stored in these filter caps, these big capacitors. It stores in all of this electricity, and then we hit our guitar and there's a big blast of just awesomeness going into the audience's ears. So when we blast it off, obviously we need to recharge those caps. It draws, the energy goes back into the caps, but sometimes, say you have an inadequate power supply, you're not kind of putting enough power into the amp, or the caps might not be, big enough, they're a little bit small, there might be a little bit of a delay, a little bit of a sag that goes into it so that there's a little bit of a squishiness or a sponginess to your attacks when you go from note to note. That's what the ghost knob does. As you raise it, you get more of that organic sponginess that you will only hear in a really awesome tube amp. Down low, we have a nice, tight, healthy supply, power supply kind of sound, And as you turn up the ghost, what ends up happening is it starts getting a little bit more of an immediate sag, a little bit more of that compression, and you also start introducing a little bit of a harmonic in the bottom of your note. You can hear the harmonic right here. Oh, that is infectious. Take away that negative feedback, add a lot of that ghost. All of a sudden you have that old tweed amp on the verge of explosion tone. Delicious. Well, if you thought the pedal just began and ended with those two channels, you are darn wrong. Darn wrong. If you want to spring for the extra foot switch, you got some extra options. One of them being the mid assign, which you could actually use without the foot switch. You could assign it, but I just like to be able to press the mid engage to kind of treat it like a mid boost. So you could throw away your tube screamer. You don't need it anymore. You have it right built into here. Another great asset of the external foot switch is the blend override. Really, really useful and great idea. What it does is it just gets rid of the clean tone in the pedal, regardless of what your blend setting is. So right now, I have a lot of clean tone with just a little bit of gain, just to kind of fatten up my notes. You press the blend override switch, all of a sudden we just have pure gain, another channel of awesomeness. Well, if you made it this far, you must be really, really into this pedal, and I don't blame you. The last thing we're gonna talk about is the reamp EQ, which is this little section right over here. This is what we use to make this pedal sound good for anything we plug it into. If you spring for the custom panel, it'll open up extra option to really tweak the pedal to be voiced exactly the way you need it to match that amp that you're playing it through. So just using a couple EQ tweaks, let's go see me play this pedal through a bunch of different amps and see how cool we can make it sound. Well, that's it. That is the demo. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe to the page and put the bell button so you know when I post a new video. There's a lot of really cool things coming out all the time. So my question for the subscribers today is this something you can see yourself implementing into your rig? Very, very versatile piece. Or you just kind of want to have a very specifically voiced 3-knobber on the floor, kind of set and forget. I'd really, really like to know. Another question I'd like to ask you guys is how many songs did I play in this demo that you could actually pick out? There's a lot of them in this episode, so write them down as well. That being said, I'll see you all soon. Take care. And goodbye.